Okay, welcome back, everybody. My name is Chris Anselmo. With me is Tony Shore, and you are listening to The Road to Retirement.
All right, Chris, thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. If our listeners hear some rumbling in the background, it's
That's
not
not
all the
that's not that's not Tony's bean burrito.
no, it's not all the chili dogs I ate yesterday on National Hot Dog Day.
What
Uh,
was that? I didn't
yeah,
know that.
we are recording this the day after National Hot
Oh,
Dog
I didn't
Day, and
know
I
that.
did host a hot dog eating contest at Gradient Investments.
Wow. My parents used to own a hot dog stand, if whatever you
Of
want to call
course
it. Yeah,
they did. Chris, you've
yeah,
always got a connection to
yeah.
everything. I love it.
Yeah, it was called Johnny Hot Dog. I mean, the best hot dogs you ever. They had their own recipe. They had sheepskin casings.
Oh,
It
wow.
was really good.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive. Well, at any rate, that was fun. How have you been? What have you been up to, Chris?
A lot. We had a shredding event yesterday, which went in a donut truck and coffee. So that went pretty well. The weather held up. We thought it might rain, but it was good. And then afterwards, I took the boys golfing, and the girls went out drinking and eating and stuff. So it was all good. But yeah,
Good. You treat your staff and your clients well.
yeah.
You offer the free shredding, having a shredding day. In fact, I've got a whole bag of really important papers that I don't need anymore that I need shredded. I should have stopped by there.
Yeah,
I've been
just take
meaning
the
to do
plane and yeah.
that. Yeah.
So funny during the shredding event. Somehow I must have scratched my ear with a fingernail, and it started bleeding. And I'm like,
No.
literally, I had blood all over my hands. I'm like, I'm hit. Like,
Oh, no.
how ironic was that? Like 3 days
Wow.
afterwards, whatever. So yeah, I must have scratched my ear some. But yeah, it all went well. So we had a big shredding truck. It was open to the public too. So clients
Sure.
came, public came, and it was good. Weather cooperated.
Good.
And then Tony, Marlette, Jeff, and Zach, we went. I took them golfing at a country club I belong to, and it was all good. We had lunch,
So the
and it was
4
good.
of you golfed? You had a foursome?
Yeah, we had four of us golfed,
And who
and
won? Who
we
came up
didn't
with
really
the
keep score. There was like Tony and Jeff really haven't played much in their
Oh,
lives, right?
oh, okay.
So it was like
I
hit the
know,
ball.
I was kind of being facetious because I know it was probably you who did the
Yeah, we
best.
didn't really keep score. So and Zach's a pretty good golfer, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
good.
Oh, good. All right. Well, what are we talking
Okay,
about on the show today?
topic for today. We've had this book out for a while, and I really haven't talked about it. It's called "The New Rules of Retirement Savings." So we helped write the intro, and the whole book is really about taking a different approach to savings. The traditional way is like either you're going to save in your 401k or you're going to save in an IRA, or if you don't have those, you may just do your own savings. But um, as we talked about in other shows, a lot of those types of plans have Uncle Sam with them, right? So
Yeah.
the IRAs and the 401ks that you've been putting money away for years, there's we call it the tax time bomb. Down the road, Uncle Sam wants some of the money. So is there another way to save? Are there alternative ways to save that maybe Uncle Sam doesn't get in the pocket so much? So we look at those for clients. The traditional way of doing it, the first way we kind of look at is maybe at the first way, but let's talk about the two main ways are either to use a Roth
Mhm.
IRA, which for our listeners, the difference between Roth IRAs and regular IRAs are so your regular retirement accounts, either 401ks, IRAs, SEP plans, whatever you want, we just call them retirement accounts. You get to put money in today. Don't pay tax on it today. So if you had $1,000 in your paycheck and you want to put $200 away into one of these accounts, then you're only paying tax on 800. And your deal with the IRS is don't tax me today, and hopefully when I retire, I'll pay tax on that $200 plus whatever growth it was. But hopefully I'll be in a lower tax bracket. And so that was the whole thinking about what we call tax deferred savings.
Yep.
So the taxes are deferred, they're not free, right? So tax free means it's free. There's no tax. And tax
Right.
deferred just means somewhere down the road, you're paying Uncle Sam and his wife and his
I prefer
5 million
tax-free.
children now. I mean,
I like the word tax only if it's followed by
yeah,
the word free, Chris.
yeah, I mean, it's funny because you used to just have to feed Uncle Sam. Now, I mean, Uncle Sam's
Right.
getting kinda porky, right? I mean,
Oh,
he's looking
kinda
like us.
porky,
I
kinda
mean,
porky.
what is that? I
Yeah,
mean, how many I don't even know how many trillions of dollars we're in debt right now, but,
30
yeah,
something.
yeah, it's just nuts. So,
And if you go to, debtclock.org or usdebtclock.org,
yeah, it's
whatever
like
that
$100,000 a person.
it's just but the numbers go up so fast you can't see them; 'em, they're a
Right.
blur.
Yeah, people don't
Yeah.
understand, like, $1 trillion is a million millions.
Yeah. 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 It's you can't even we can't I don't think humans have the ability to wrap their head around $1 trillion,
Oh, yeah,
right? I
yeah.
mean,
I
they
mean,
don't.
even a bill, there's that, I remember when I was a kid, we went to the history museum and they're talking about 1 billion years ago. And 1 billion seconds is like 34 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
A
Let
billion
alone a
seconds, right?
trillion.
Yeah, and so that's a trillion is 1,000 billions, right? So it'd be
That's unbelievable.
34,000 whatever, right?
Yeah.
Years. So, so a little bit on this topic is, again, most listeners are going to understand the regular retirement accounts if they have them. So here's the key on the Roth. The Roth says, let's use an example. You have $100,000 in your IRA account and you want to convert it to a Roth account. Now you could do two things. You're going to have to pay the tax. So either you can pay the tax out of the Roth account. Hopefully you won't, but if you had no other money to pay the tax, let's use a round number. Say it's going to be 30%, right, between federal and state. So maybe even more, but let's just use 30. So you have $100,000 in an account. You convert it to a Roth. You're going to owe $30,000 in taxes. That's a tough number. So when we do this and we show the calculations, it would be nice if you could pay the $30,000 out of another pocket,
Yeah.
so you can actually convert the whole $100,000 into the Roth. So if you could, that would be preferably you would so your new Roth would open with $100,000. So the deal with the IRS on the Roth says, we're gonna the IRS is basically saying, look, if you pay us now, we'll make you a deal. You'll never have to pay us tax on this account again. So if that $100,000, which is 70 now, so the $70,000 grows to $7 million. Sounds unrealistic, right? But even if it grew back up to 100, you're not going to pay tax on any of the gain as long as a couple things. One, when you take the money out, you're at least 59 and a half. And two, you've had the Roth account for at least 5 years. Okay. So one suggestion is to, even if you don't have a lot of money you're going to convert, just open a Roth, because the rule is you have to have had a Roth account for 5 years. It doesn't have to be that Roth account. So,
Hmm.
so as long as you had a Roth account open for 5 years, you can avoid that penalty. So, but most of our clients aren't taking money out before they're 59 and a half. And, we will have in place to have Roth account available for 5 years before they need the money. So what we like about that is there's no, we've talked about these things called RMDs on other shows, which are required minimum distributions. So required minimum distributions means that, Tony, once you hit a certain age, the new age is 73, that the IRS is going to require that you take out a minimum amount of money
Hmm.
every year so that they can get taxed on that account that you haven't paid tax on all your life,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So if you have 100,000, well, say you have $100,000 IRA, and let's use sake of argument, it's about 4%. It's like 3.8 something. But so let's say it's 4%. So you have to take out $4,000, whether you want to or not. You take out $4,000, pay the tax on $4,000, and then you're hunky dory. Now you could take out more, but you have to take out the required minimum amount, right? So if you don't, tell them what the penalty is, Tony.
If you don't, the penalty, it used to be 50%.
Is that crazy?
So
Not
you'd have to
so,
pay a
you
50%
didn't say
penalty,
15, right? You said 50. Right.
50, plus that's in addition to what you actually owe on taxes.
Yeah.
So you'd have to take the money out and pay 50% of that money in a penalty, and then pay whatever you owed on taxes on top
Uh,
of it. Now they did lower it recently
yeah, but
to 25, which is still the highest penalty in the IRS tax
yeah.
code,
So
right?
so the crazy part is we had a he wasn't a client yet, but I think I've shared this with you before, but we had a young kid come in years ago, and I forgot how much it was in the account. I don't know. Let's just use a round number. It was like $200,000 IRA
Sure.
that his father had,
Sure.
and him and his father were estranged for years. And
Hmm.
he didn't even know his dad died. So he found this account through something called unclaimed funds, and I'm sure
Yep.
probably all the states have it. So
Yep.
there's a fund out there that's
I've used it.
administered by the state. So if a company can't locate the person who they're owed money to, and oftentimes it's like utility companies that have a deposit, and you moved and they don't know where to forward the deposit you had,
Right.
so they give it to the government and then you can make the claim with the government here in Ohio and get your unclaimed funds back. So anyhow, so this kid makes his claim. It's a his dad died about 8 years ago, so he comes in and says, "Look, I got found this $200,000." I said, "Well, good news, bad news. Good news, like it's nice to find 200,000. Like I've never found $200,000.
Yeah.
And
That's nice.
I think I found $20 one time. But anyhow, um, so I sat him down. I said, "Well, hopefully you didn't spend it all." He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you're going to owe tax on the money." And the rule back then was, and still is too. So you either if you didn't make the election to take it out over your lifetime, today's a
Hmm.
different rule. Today it's 10 years, right?
Yeah.
If you're not a spouse.
You only have 10, you have 10 years.
Yeah.
That's it.
So back then, the rule was you had to take it out within 5 years if you didn't make the election to take it out over your lifetime. They changed that rule. But anyhow,
Yeah.
so he has to pay tax uh, on the $200,000.
Mm.
So let's say in our example, it's federal and state, it's 40%. So that's
Sure.
80 grand.
Yep.
And he has to pay a 50% penalty on the 200, not on the what after tax, like, the 200 minus the 80, right? So he has to pay $100,000 in penalty and an $80,000 tax. He only inherited 200. So he's going to pay 180,000 of it to the government.
That's
Enough said,
nuts.
right?
Yeah.
So
That's
because there
terrible.
was a penalty back then, it was 50%. So
Yep.
50% of the 200 is $100,000,
Yep.
and 40% of the 200 was 80. If I did
Yep.
my math right, right? So 180 out of 200. Now, Tony, if you found 200 grand and it's a year later, would you have 180,000 of it left?
Nope.
I don't know what
No, I mean,
I
best
think
best case scenario, it would be invested. Worst case
oh, yeah, but you're
scenario,
going to spend some of it,
it would be
right? You're going
gone.
to buy a
Oh, yeah,
car. You're going to,
yeah.
pay off some bills, and
Oh, yeah.
you know, I think the conclusion was, he didn't hire us. Like, he's just not going to file the return. I mean, I don't know what he ended up doing, but I told him he
Yeah,
owes 180 grand. Like, he goes, I don't have any. Like, I paid off my car. I paid some money down on I don't have the money anymore.
yeah.
So, so that's the tax time bomb that we're talking about. So with all your retirement accounts, either you're going to pay the tax or your loved ones, whoever you give the money to, is going to eventually pay the tax. So
Sure. On
somebody's
all
going
those tax deferred accounts, like traditional IRA,
yeah,
we're talking about traditional IRAs, 401ks,
401ks, pensions, all that.
403b,
Yeah, everything that's tax
even
deferred.
TSPs if it's
Right.
tax
Yeah.
deferred. So any tax deferred retirement account, you have to pay taxes on it eventually. The
Yeah.
government will make
They're
you.
just yeah,
And
they're just deferred.
yeah, and if you don't pay them on time, there are penalties involved.
Yeah.
So, people need to be aware of that. And like the example you gave is that's a
That's nuts.
that's a
Yeah.
scary one.
Yeah.
Now they're a little better because I read that. In fact, you're the one that told me about this. The penalty is now 25%. But if you catch it within a certain time period and you have a good reason, like, oh, we completely didn't
Oh,
know, we missed this, our mom died or something and
Yeah.
we were still dealing with that, they'll drop it to 10, but the minimum you're going to pay is 10%.
Yeah. So I mean,
And
you
and if
the
it's been too long, they're going to charge you the full 25
plus
plus whatever
interest,
you owe,
plus
plus
interest.
interest and what you owe for taxes.
So
Yeah.
that the IRS doesn't really care that you weren't talking to your father. It's not
No.
their problem, right? That you were estranged from your father. So that's the tax time bomb that everyone talks about. Now it's always not going to be that egregious, but somewhere down the road, either and the trade off was, look, I'm not going to pay tax in theory when I'm at my highest taxable. I'm making my most money. Most people make their most money in their 50s, right? So if I'm making a lot of money, I want to defer some of that. So hopefully when I
Mhm.
retire, I'll be in a lower bracket. So I'm going to give up, so I'm in our example, 100,000, you're putting money away and your tax bracket today is maybe 40, but hopefully when you retire, it's only 20. But the deal is you're going to pay tax not only on what you deferred, but any of the gain that so if that
Right.
so again, let's say $100,000, $20,000 you deferred, it grows to $1 million. You have to pay tax on the whole million, not just the amount you deferred, right?
Right. And that's why Roths are so popular. And I know you're a proponent of
Yeah,
Roths to have some money in a tax free bucket. Now, you don't want all your eggs in one basket, but you should have some money in tax free options
right.
like what
Life,
did you say the tax free options are? A Roth IRA,
the other,
cash value,
yeah,
life
yeah.
insurance.
So life insurance, because of the power of lobbying, um, that's a whole nother topic. But the power of years and years. I mean, as long as I've been in business, life insurance is tax free.
Right.
So I think it's code section. I think it's 7701 or something like that. But so when you inherit life insurance, it's tax free. So the question is, could you build a tax free retirement vehicle by using life insurance? Now, life insurance has had critics over the years. It's
If it's the right type of life
yeah, it could
insurance
be
and it's
expensive,
cash
and
value life insurance,
yeah.
you can utilize that for retirement, right?
So yeah, so in this book we talk about a product. I don't know if you can see the book. So a product that's called Index Universal Life. So IULs. So the benefit of Index Universal Life was your crediting method of how much you're going to make in interest in that policy is based on generally the S&P 500 or some type of stock market index. But as we talked about in other shows, when you use indexing things like this, when the market goes down, you just get a zero. So you don't suffer those large losses if we have a catastrophic year like we've had in the past. We've had the tech bubble, we had the housing bubble, we had COVID,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
And
So
as
and
they say, zero is our hero in
yeah,
that case, right?
so the indexing. The other thing with indexing is it's nice that people want to talk about. It also eliminates panic. Like
Mm,
if the market's
yeah.
dropping 40%, a lot of people are getting out, right? That's why it's dropping because people are getting out. But when you have zero as your floor, you're like, well, I guess I could just ride it, right? If I'm not losing anything, so I don't make anything this year. So the the concept, the other part about life insurance is there is a death benefit, right? So let's say you buy a policy that's got $1 million death benefit, um, and it's working. The Index Universal Life is working, so maybe you can pull money out of this policy as it's growing, as it's getting interest, so you could have tax-free income coming in when you're retired. And God forbid you die early, there's still a death benefit there for your family. Versus if you're in a 401k IRA, you're only getting whatever the account's worth when you're dead, right? There's no kicker, right? So that's it. That's what life insurance is all about. There's going to be some type of death benefit if you die prematurely, or when you die, there's going to be some type of death benefit, or maybe the account's going to be higher than the death benefit. So you have some guarantees out there in the future if something happens to you. So now the knock on life insurance is it's
Premiums.
yeah,
People hate paying the
yeah, yeah,
premiums,
but
basically.
it's generally not. I think it's somewhat of a misconception how expensive it is because, you have expenses in your 401k, you have expenses
Right.
in your mutual funds, you have
Oh, yeah.
expenses in your advisor
You're
fees.
paying fees for all of that, whether you know it or not.
Right. So the mutual fund companies aren't doing this for free, and the insurance companies aren't doing this for free. So they're, I don't know if they're apples for apples, but you're going to pay fees on both sides. But you're getting something for these fees, and you're getting a death benefit, right? So there's at least part of that mortality expenses is to create that death benefit. Now, the now life insurance is probably the best vehicle for that, but not everybody could qualify, right? With annuities, you just have to put your money up. With mutual funds, you just have to put your money up. Stocks, you just put your money up. Life insurance, you have your health to consider. Like you may not be able to get life insurance or it's going to be super expensive. So if you have,
And Chris, not everybody out there is a picture of health like
I know,
myself. I mean, they don't all have this going
that
for them.
doesn't all happen naturally either.
No, no.
Tony's in the
Yeah.
gym 6 days or in the kitchen
Yeah.
6 days a week. But and I don't believe I'm the fattest. I play four games of softball a week. I golf 3 times. I mean, I'm pretty active. I chop wood, and
Yeah,
I'm
that's
still
good.
fat. I'm still a fat ass. But
You're not, Chris. You're a
so
Slim Jim
oh yeah.
compared to most of us. I mean,
So
not everybody can be Tony Marlette Jr., which
yeah,
obviously he's
yeah,
got issues the other way. I
yeah,
I
yeah.
tell Tony every time I see him, Tony, could you please eat a sandwich?
Well, Tony, I don't know if you know, Tony's a diabetic, so he
Yes,
has to
yeah,
watch what really,
yeah. No,
he
I'm.
has to be careful, right?
Hey,
So
I'm supposed to be careful,
yeah.
but
So
yeah, yeah,
so if you can't qualify for life insurance because your health is just not good enough, the next alternative is the Roth, right?
yeah.
So the Roth is the opposite of the IRA. I'm going to pay the money today. My deal, though, my Uncle Sam, is I'm not paying tax on this money ever again. So if that $70,000 grows to $700,000, I'm not paying tax
On any of it.
on
You're
any of
not
it.
paying taxes on the principal you put in.
I already paid my tax,
You're not paying taxes on the growth though either. That's
right?
the really
S-
big benefit.
So if you can, now I think the caveat is nobody likes to write that check. Like, so we're going to convert $100,000 and you're going to owe $30,000 to the
Mhm.
IRS.
Yep.
People are like, what? You want
Mhm.
me to give up $30,000?
Yeah.
So, the
Well,
other concern,
taxes are at an all-time low though,
yeah,
Chris,
yeah,
right
right.
now. I
These are
mean,
the lowest brackets ever.
taxes right now are historically low, and that's gonna expire at the end of next year. We've only got
Yeah.
just over a year
So,
of that left,
so it
right?
really
So
depends on whoever ends up winning Congress, right? So to change the
yeah, but
laws.
I think no matter who it does, taxes have to go up at some point.
Well,
I mean,
they could stop spending. I mean,
Chris,
I
see
know this wasn't supposed to be a comedy show, but
that sense of humor is what gets my side hurts from the laughter,
I mean,
Chris.
I mean,
That's
they bring in more money than they ever brought in. They just spend too much. I mean, so
there you go.
so as we talk, so the Roth is your deal with the IRS is I'm going to pay it all up front. You're not going to tax me later, and you're not, and I don't have any RMDs later either, so I don't have to
Right.
take money out of this account. So this account could grow in perpetuity. Now your spouse could inherit it, and they don't have to take any RMDs out of it. So, but once if it the new rule though is it's a non spouses have to deplete it within 10 years. So and they have to take out their RMDs, but
Sure.
they I think I don't understand. I understand why, but I don't understand why. You know what I mean? I know they because what's happening was great granddad left his Roth to his great grandchild, and it was tax deferred for 100 or tax free for 100 years, right? So so those are really what this book is about is looking at instead of looking at traditional ways of of saving, and maybe we should really be looking at tax-free ways of saving using life insurance, using Roths. As long as you have to pay the piper up front. But so we have a lot of these books. So
Okay.
Tony, we should give some of these books away. So what are we
Yeah.
gonna do here?
Well, I'll tell you what we're gonna do, Chris. Those books are great, and that's not just a pamphlet. That's a solid book,
Yeah, yeah,
and
it's a book.
it's a great one. And you helped write the intro to that book. You've got a lot of copies. So for our listeners, if you call in and the number is 440-886-3550, we'll send you a copy. Or even better, you can set up a no charge, no obligation consultation. Come in, you'll get a copy of the book. You'll be able to sit down and have Chris and his team review your finances and your retirement plan or your investment plan. If you don't have one, they'll look at where you're at and help you get set up. If you have one, they'll give you a second opinion. But there's no charge for the book. Give us a call, 440-886-3550, to get a copy of New Rules for Retirement Savings.
Yeah.
Chris, I think that's great. You're offering the book to our listeners and viewers out there. It's been a great show.
Can you imagine tax-free retirement?
Oh, the more money you've got in a Roth, and my daughter's 21. She started a Roth and is putting money into a Roth.
we set up Roths for our kids when they were
I
younger.
wish I'd give
I'm not sure
anything.
they're listening. They probably don't even remember or know about it,
Yeah.
but they're there. So
Yeah, I wish I had started a Roth when I was in my 20s. You
well,
know what I mean?
I'm not sure Roths were around when you were in your 20s, but
Yeah,
anyhow.
Chris, that's actually
Okay, so Tony, take us
sad
home.
trombone. All right. Well, Chris, thank you. And listeners, viewers, thanks for watching and tuning in. That does it for today's episode of The Road to Retirement with our host, Chris Anselmo.